Okay. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about today is I want to talk about navigating around your drawing space here, okay? I might slip and call this model space because that's what we call our drawing area in AutoCAD, but I think that's okay. It wouldn't be the end of the world if we call this model space, right? So I'm going to talk about how we navigate around our model space, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we navigate through our project browser. And then I'm going to talk about some selection methods, how we select items in Revit, okay? So I'm going to just draw some random pieces in my drawing space here just so that there's something on my screen that you can visualize. And if you would like to do the same thing, you can more than welcome to follow along. I think it will help you. I'm going to draw a couple walls in here, all right? And I'm going to keep it very simple. If you want to follow along, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click on the architecture tab first, make sure you're there. I'm going to click on the wall command right here. I'm just going to click. I'm not going to do anything else except just initiate that wall command. I'm going to click in my drawing space, move in the direction I want to go, click again. Move in the direction I want to go, click again. Move in the direction I want to go, click again. And it doesn't matter if these are straight. We're just kind of, messing around here. Click. I'm going to move in the direction I want to go, click, and I want to close up my little building here, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit, which we'll talk about in a second. I'm going to come up to the end of where I started here and click again, and that essentially kind of created a closed room. We'll say a room, right? If I had wanted to get out of the wall command before I'd finished my little room, right, I'm going to hit escape. One thing you may have noticed as you were creating your little walls is that there's a bunch of this blue text that's happening, right? Those are called temporary dimensions. We don't need to worry about those just yet, but they will come in a little more, very helpful actually when you're starting to actually draft, okay? All right, so let's talk first about navigating, okay? I'm in my drawing board here. A few things I want to define. Number one, I want to define what view I'm in, okay? So I want to remind you that when you're in Revit and you're drawing a building, right, or a space or whatever you're drawing in Revit, even though it does appear as if I'm looking at a flat 2D drawing, I am actually drawing a 3D model, right? You don't know how to navigate around this very much yet, but this is a 3D model, right? That means it has not only length and width, but it has a height associated with it, okay? And when we look at different views of our model, right, they're located, number one, over here in our project browser, but that's what we do. We view our model in different ways to create the different construction drawings, okay? So some things that you're going to want to start getting into the habit of doing when you start drawing or you open a file, right? Number one, you're going to want to make sure that you're very aware of what drawing you're in as you're creating model geometry, right? So we created a very simple little, structure here. But what I want to point out is that I was in level 1 when I generated that, all right? And what that means is that at this point, level 1 has become the starting point for the geometry I created, meaning the base of my wall starts at level 1, okay? I don't know how tall it is. We don't know how to define that yet, but something you can be assured of is that when I have level 1 and it's highlighted here, and I create something like a wall and I draw on level 1, unless I define it otherwise, that object will start at level 1, okay? I got to level 1 just by opening up my basic drawing here, right? So Revit just opened up level 1 as a default, and that's okay. If I wanted to go to another view of my 3D geometry over here, there's a few ways I can do it, right? I can come back over here to my project browser, and I can double click on another view. So if I wanted to see an elevation, for example, let's go to the north elevation. Click, click. Okay, and now I'm viewing my north elevation. And now I keep saying, we were in, level 1 when we created that wall geometry. Well, what does that mean? What does level 1 mean? Well, level 1 right here, this is the definition of level 1. And later on, we'll learn how to create these levels and manipulate them. But essentially, we have a data marker here, and this data marker, okay, it's called a level marker. when this level marker was placed, which in this case it was placed by default in this file, when we opened it, that defined level 1, all right? And because this level marker was placed at a height of 0, that placed level 1 at 0, all right? I can manipulate first of all, the name of level 1, but I can also manipulate the height of level 1, meaning if I wanted it to be at -2 feet from point 0, I could make it -2 feet from point 0, okay? We're not really worried about that right now, but I just want to show you that. Okay. All right. If I want to go to another view, what do we have here? We don't have a whole lot. I've got my 3D view here. You see it's closed. If I click on the little plus sign next to it, it opens up and it reveals whatever views are present and have been created in that 3D area. I can double click on this 3D, click, and I pop into a 3D mode. All right. When I'm in my 3D mode, I see my model in all its glory here, right? I see all the vertical nature of my model, essentially, right? So I see the height of my model. Something new to 2019 is the addition of these levels in 3D, which we didn't used to be able to see. So if you're using an older version of Revit and you pop into 3D like this, you won't see these levels happening, okay? But it's kind of nice. It's sometimes, I don't know. I'm still the jury's out. I first like to see these levels in 3D because I thought, oh, it kind of orients me. But then they got to be a nuisance because when I printed a 3D view, they were always there and I always had to hide them because I didn't want anybody to see them. Okay. But essentially this gives a really good graphic of a level, right? There's my level, it's defined. We saw it in the elevation. Here in 3D, it's defined as a plane, right? But that gives you a good idea. Here's my level 2, right? It kind of hits my wall about mid-stride right there, but there's my level 2. I can come over here and I can open up, a lot of other views. I think I'm just gonna go back to level 1. Click on level 1, I go back to level 1, all right? I want to remind you that we have these tabs up here. So even though I'm in level 1, and level 1 is bold and it is current meaning the tab here is white, you notice I have these other tabs behind it, okay? If I click on those tabs, I can navigate to those views I was previously in. If I click on this little X, it closes that view, right? So, Revit has made it very easy for me to navigate between different views of my Revit model, which, yep, you're good.
It doesn't give me the 3D view option.
On here? Did you open up, what file did you open up when you? The architecture one? Let me just come take a quick look. The top view, I was saying. Oh, yours is gone too. Okay, let me show you I'll show you how to get one. Okay, so because you don't have a 3D view doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't exist. It just means that it hasn't really been. Maybe we have a ghost in here, right? The AutoCAD lab ghost. It just hasn't been created yet, okay? So another way to access our 3D views without getting into how to create views is there's a little shortcut up here, this default 3D, and I can click on that. And when you click on that, that should pop you into a 3D view. There you go. So essentially, the reason you don't have one of these here is just because a view hasn't been saved yet. That's why. All right, so we can navigate between these tabs, right? We can close them out, right? I can click and close, I can click, I can close, which is wonderful. Kind of a new addition to our 2019 interface. We didn't used to have that, right? If I have, for example, level 1 open and I have several views behind it open and I want to close these all at the exact same time, I leave my current view open. I can come up here to my quick access and there's close inactive windows. And when I click on that, all those previous windows close out and I just have my level 1 here. Okay. So we kind of, remember how to navigate, to different views of our Revit model. We can come up here to our quick access and pop into 3D and take a look at things, right? I want to show you how to use your drawing space to navigate. Okay, number one, navigate with my mouse, meaning move around, but I also want to show you how we can access some different views using our model space. All right, I'm going to come up here to my quick access toolbar again, and you'll notice there's a little tool called the section tool. And I'm just going to click once, drag that section through my geometry I've created, click a second time, and just by simply doing that, I created building section. All right, so easy enough. I'm going to hit escape, right, to disengage with that, and then I'm going to show you how to access views from your drawing space here. All right, I can click on views over here to access them. We know that. Let me make one quick suggestion. It just kind of popped into my head. You'll notice that we have floor plans here, and we also have ceiling plans here, right? Do you notice also that we have level 1, level 2, level 1, level 2, right? They are the same name, and they are right underneath each other. So I think probably a huge mistake that a lot of well, I can't even say beginning students make because sometimes I do it, is I think, oh, I need to go to level 1. So I come over here and I don't sort of recognize where I'm headed, and I think, oh, there's level 1, click, click. And I get to my level 1, and it doesn't look the way it should. And in this case, it is fine. It's a bad example. But my point is, if you click on level 1 ceiling plan, when you're working through a set of drawings, the ceiling plan will look pretty different than the floor plan. Okay, so I usually will collapse the ceiling plan section so that I don't accidentally go in there and start clicking on level 1, 2, 3, 4, thinking in my mind I'm accessing an actual floor plan, right, when I'm accessing a ceiling plan. All right, so I'm back over here in model space. I want to show you a couple of more ways to access views in our model space, our drawing board here. Okay, you're going to notice that you have these little markers here, and they go all the way around our building, right? And then we just added another marker here. This is called annotation or tags, right? This is a section marker. These are elevation markers. And that's what these look like in Revit, okay? So if I want to access an elevation through my drawing space, because it's just quicker for me for whatever reason, instead of coming over here and engaging my project browser, I can double click on the head of this marker. See how if I hover over, I'm not clicking yet, but I hover and it turns blue. If I double click on that quickly, click, 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 I go into my north elevation. Okay, I can close out of that north elevation, go back to my floor plan. So we have a north, we have an east, we have a south, and we have a west elevation, right? And the question was asked, well, can you define a north elevation, right? Well, this is the north elevation. This is the north elevation marker, okay? It's on the north side of the building. And it's a little confusing at first because this elevation marker is technically looking south, right? That's not how elevation markers are defined in construction drawings. Because it's on the north side of the building and we're looking at the north side of the building, this is our north elevation, okay? So north, east, south, west. And these are our exterior elevations, all right? So the way these elevation markers work, I'm going to click one time on it. When I click one time on it, you notice I get this blue line popping up here, okay? And you notice if I hover over it, it says drag, okay? This blue line indicates the extent of my elevation right now. So what that means is when I click on that, okay, I've got this line. I'm just going to move it. You guys don't need to move it. But essentially, this elevation is going from here to here. So it's encompassing anything that you see in this realm, all right? So if I go to my east elevation, same thing is happening, right? I'm viewing the east side of the building, and I'm able to view everything here. There's my south, and there's my west elevation. So I'm going to see something real quick here. Okay. I think nope, okay. All right. So to access my view again here, I double click on it very quickly. Click, click, north elevation. I can close out my north elevation. Click, click, east elevation. I can close out my east elevation. South and west, you guys get the idea. It only works when I click on the head of the tag, in this case, the elevation. This little square part back here, this is something else we'll talk about later, but this indicates if you do have an elevation and you put it on a sheet, where it's located on the sheet. So in a set of architectural drawings, this will say something like 1 on A201, right? So if a contractor is building a building and they want to see what the east elevation looks like, right, this marker will eventually indicate where that is located in the construction drawing set, okay? I also have another tag here. I have a section marker, right? And I can come over here in my project browser, right? And I can click on section number 1 twice and I can go to the section view. But what's nice about having these markers here in Revit and how they function is that they're interactive. So if I want to access this section from here, I can click, click, and I go into my sectional view. Okay, so this is a vertical cut of my Revit project here. One thing you may have noticed, I'm going to close that out, is that when I was in my elevation view, click, click, I also saw my section view here, right? So this elevation is indicating the sectional view. Well, if I want to access my sectional view, I move my mouse over the point of it, click, click, and there's my sectional view, right? So from whatever view you're in, you can really access any tag that is indicated, all right? Now, every now and again, just like with any type of technology, these can be sometimes finicky, where you click and click and click and click and you can't get to the view, right? Well, if that doesn't work for whatever reason, you're not quite on it, your mouse isn't clicking quick enough, morning, something, right? If you want to access the view, this is the north elevation. Of course, we can come over here and double click on north elevation. We can always do that. The other thing I can do is click on the head of that elevation marker one time, right click, it's a right click with my mouse, and I can choose go to elevation view. And I go to elevation view. Okay, so for those of you that have taken AutoCAD, you know this, but there's always 3 or 4 different ways to activate commands, get out of commands, go around a command that's not working, and Revit is the same way, right? So I can't double click on my my section marker. It's not working. It won't take me to my view, right? It's still there, but I can't engage it. Okay, fine, that's great. I'm going to click on you one time, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to choose go to view. Okay, if that doesn't work, which it should, I can always come over here and I can click, click, double click on my section 1, and there's my section, right? So there's always several different ways to do things. One way is not more correct than another. It's just another way of doing it. Okay. Any questions so far? Any of this? Not too bad yet, right? Okay. So let's talk about, now that we sort of know how to navigate our views and look at our model in different ways, right? Let's talk about how we can navigate around our drawing board here. And I'm going to go back to level 1. And I notice I have level 1 open here in a tab, so I'm going to do that. Click. There's my level 1 tab, right? And I want to learn how to physically navigate using my mouse in Revit, okay? So I want to pan, first of all. And these definitions and things are in the book here. They'll be on the video that I record, and then they'll also be in the companion video for navigation using your mouse on YouTube, okay? So panning, zooming, orbiting. I'm going to talk about those 3 things in model space, all right? Panning, it allows you to move across the drawing board, all right? So if I want to move horizontally, if I want to move vertically, diagonally, if I just want to move around without zooming or orbiting, I can pan. And the easiest way to pan is to hold down the roller button on your mouse, hold it down, and move it back and forth. I'm holding and I'm moving my mouse back and forth. That's panning. I let go of that and nothing happens. I hold down my middle roller again and I'm panning. Okay. Now, again, we have different ways where where we can, I'm going to get into that in a second. We have different ways where we can pan and move and navigate about Revit, but I can show you where they are, but you know, I'm very much about kind of the easiest way of doing something. And for me, it's not easy when I want to zoom or pan or move or do something. It's not easy to go up and hit a button or come over here and use a steering wheel to pan. It's easy to use the mouse, right? Hold the middle roller, move about. That's the easiest way of going about it. We also are allowed to zoom in Revit, and don't be afraid to zoom. I think a lot of beginning students get very nervous about zooming. But don't be nervous about zooming. Zooming will allow you to change the viewable area of your drawing board by allowing you to zoom in or to zoom out. So zooming in will allow you to see more detail. Zooming out will allow you to see more of the big picture, right? Again, to zoom, I'm going to use my middle roller button on my mouse. I'm going to roll the middle roller away from me, and I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to roll the middle roller button towards me. I'm going to zoom out, okay? And this is a targeted zoom, meaning if my mouse is kind of in this area, I roll in, and it zooms into that area, okay? I roll out, and it zooms out. If I want to zoom in here, I just move my mouse over there. Okay, if I want to zoom in here or up in this corner, right? I can pan at the same time. I can zoom, I can pan. I can zoom, I can pan, all right? One thing I want you to know about these commands is that they don't break other commands that are already in sequence, right? So if I, for example, am in the middle of drawing a wall, right? Here's a wall, click, click. Oh, I need to zoom in. I can zoom in, and my wall command continues. Click, click, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, pan, right? And it escape, escape, it doesn't break my command, all right? So I can be in the middle of any command, I can zoom, I can pan, and it doesn't break that command, right? Which is the hardest part. Getting the command started, getting it right, and then you think, oh, I can't move my screen because I don't want to break the command. I already got it going, right? But you don't need to worry about that. Zooming, panning, navigating about your drawing space doesn't break any commands. So I have zoom, right? I have pan, okay? I also have zoom extents. And zoom extents will allow you to take the view that you're currently in and zoom the screen to the extent of the drawing, all right? It's very easy to do. I'm gonna just have my mouse in my drawing board here. I'm gonna double click my roller twice, click, click, just my roller, and I zoom to the extent of my drawing. So now I'm able to view everything, the extent of my drawing, as opposed to just a little corner, okay? Double click my roller, click, click. There's my zoom extents, okay? So zoom, pan, zoom extents, those are going to be very common navigation tools in a 2D setting, all right? When I get into a 3D setting, let me just pop into my 3D setting. I'm going to come up to this little house right here and click on it. I can use any of the commands I just showed you. I can pan, I can zoom extents, and I can zoom in and out. And really those things apply to any view. So if I'm in an elevation, a section, a detail, a floor plan, a ceiling plan, a construction sheet, I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can pan, I can zoom extents, okay? One thing that a 3D view has that I cannot do in a 2D view, meaning a floor plan or an elevation, is we have an orbit, okay? An orbit will allow me to essentially 3D pan. It allows me to rotate the 3D model so I can look at the 3D model in space. So I can zoom in, zoom out, pan back and forth. I can zoom extents, double click my roller twice, click, click. There's my zoom extents, right? And I can orbit. And to orbit, I hold down the shift key on my keyboard. I hold down the middle roller button, and I move my mouse. Again, this will only happen in 3D. If you're in a 2D floor plan, it's not going to let you orbit. It'll let you zoom and pan, but orbiting only happens in 3D. So shift, middle roller, hold down, I can orbit about. I can let go, I can zoom in, shift, middle roller down, move my mouse. Oh, I'm lost in my drawing. I think I need to zoom extents. Double click my roller twice, and I zoom extents. Okay. navigating is a pretty important part of drawing because you need to be able to get to the places where you want to add geometry, right? Okay, so while I'm still in my 3D view here, I want to show you the view cube, and this is the little view cube right here. The view cube contains preset views of your 3D drawing space. This view cube in its state that you see here, it's not accessible in 2D. So this is something that you'll really only see in the 3D environment, just like orbiting, right? So you'll see I have a top view, click, and to navigate with this, you just click on it, right? I hover over the little blue corner, click. I hover over this edge here, click. There's my somewhat of an elevation view. It looks like an elevation, but I'm in a 3D environment, so it's a perspective elevation, right? Meaning I'm orbiting around it and I'm just viewing that one side of it. The bottom corner there's the bottom. I flipped around, right, left, back, right, 3D perspective. I hover over that corner. Okay. I generally will use orbit more than anything to navigate around my 3D model here. But Gabriel, you've gotten yourself in a little pickle there, haven't you? Oh, yeah. At the very top, there's a red X. Oh, yeah. There you go. In the 3D environment, I'll generally use my panning to do that, but every now and again when I want to kind of get a very well-defined view that maybe I want to put on my drawing sheet or something, I will use the view cube to say, oh, I want this view right here, right? And what I like about that is that if every time I click this, it goes to the same spot in the model, right? So if I always want to capture that same spot in the model, I will click on that same top corner or whatever, right, to capture that view. All right. Any questions about the view cube or navigating around Revit? Not too tough just yet, right? All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is selection, all right? And I'm going to go to my level 1 floor plan here, click, to do that, all right? So I'm in my level 1 floor plan here. And I want to show you how there's different ways of picking geometry in Revit, all right? So the first thing I want to do is I want to show you that as I hover, things get highlighted, right? And I hover, meaning I place my cursor over the top of an object and it turns blue. I haven't selected anything, right? Because if I selected something, it would remain blue when I move my cursor. So if I hover over an object, it turns blue and I click, that's a selection. One click is a pick. All right. If I hit escape, it clears that selection. Hover, click, that's a pick. All right. The pick, when I hover and click, so rhyming, that allows me to kind of target objects. I can pick one thing at a time, essentially. All right. Not to say that I can only pick one thing. I can add things to this selection set, but my method of selecting is one thing at a time. All right. So I can hover, click, and I picked it. And what that allows me to do is if I hit delete, it deletes it. If I, drop down my properties dialog box here, I can change the wall type. I can do a lot of different things, okay? So if I hit delete, it goes away. If I come up here and I think, oh, I deleted it, I don't want to delete it, I can hit undo. There's an undo button here. I can also hit Control Z on my keyboard. I'm a keyboard person, so you'll see things appear and reappear probably because I'm hitting Control Z on my keyboard. Okay. So I hover, click, pick. Well, I want to add also this wall to my selection set. This is a difference between AutoCAD and Revit. Those of you that are very familiar with AutoCAD, you know that if I click on this and then I click on that, that in AutoCAD both of those things are selected, right? Well, in Revit that's not the case. We have to add something to the command to continually be able to select items. So I'm going to click on one item, it selects. If I hold down Control, you see the little plus sign pop up next to my cursor. Control, I'm holding it, I'm just holding it, click. I'm still holding Control, click. I'm still holding Control, click. Okay, so if I want to add to my selection set, I can by holding Control. If I hold Shift, it's negative. Click, I can deselect items by picking on them. Okay, so Control adds, and I know that it adds because I get a little plus sign. and shift subtracts. Okay. Those of you that use AutoCAD, don't get into that. This is tricky because I find myself thinking, oh, I have to shift or I have to control to add things when I don't. And if you do that in AutoCAD, it might bump you out of being in a flat drawing and cause you to draw a bunch of crooked geometry in 3D when you don't realize it. So just pay attention, right? All right, so click, click. I can pick, control, click, click, click. I can add, shift, click, click, click. I can remove. Okay. I'm going to hit escape. I can also do what's called a tab select in Revit. So if I hover over an object, if I'm just hovering and I press tab one time and let go, tab and I let go, you notice that anything that is really sort of connected at a vertice or an endpoint is selected. So it picked a chain of these walls. Now, it didn't translate into this because it's not part of, this is considered a chain, right? These walls chain at the corners. So I'm going to hover, tab once, let go, click, and it's selected. Okay, escape, escape. So I hover, I tab, I click. Ooh, maybe we can, Rita, would you mind closing that door or just pulling it shut? They have a virtual reality tour. We can do virtual reality too if you guys want. It's pretty fun. All right. So this is, and these selection methods, they apply to everything, right? Whether it's furniture or doors or windows or walls or whatever, right? If I hover over an object, I press tab, click, it will select anything that is chained to that object, okay? Hover, tab, click, right? Those are all chained together, so it selected those. And then I can delete it, I can move it, I can copy it, I can rotate it, I can edit it, do whatever I need to do. All right. If I click in space, it deselects. I could also hit escape, and it would deselect that way. All right. I have 3 more selection methods we're going to talk about today. And then when we start learning how to draw things next week, you'll be able to use these selection methods to select the things that you actually draw. All right. So I have the pick, whether the pick is by itself or it's a tab pick, right? And I also have what are called selection windows in Revit. We also have selection windows in AutoCAD, all right? And selection windows, I'm out here in space. I'm going to click my left mouse button and hold it. I'm going to drag my mouse over some objects and touch them, and I'm going to let go. All right, that's a window selection. And if I'm going to hit escape here. If I click in the direction of top right to bottom left, so kind of this direction, click, hold my mouse button, drag over items. Anything that I touch is selected. Okay, so and it doesn't matter how much of that object I touch. Even if I just barely touch the 2 corners, they're going to be selected. Now I could delete or perform another operation on those items that I select. I could zoom out and I could select everything if I want. Okay, I'm going to hit escape. That is different from the second type of selection window that I want to use. And in AutoCAD, this is the green selection window. In AutoCAD, this is the blue selection window, but we don't have colors in Revit. So we'll just say selection type 1, selection type 2, right? So selection type 1, anything that I touch with my selection window is selected. Selection type 2, in order for me to select something, I have to drag it over the entire object. So I click in the bottom left-hand corner, and the movement is to the top right. You see that? It's this direction. And you notice that as I touch things, they don't select, right? And it's because this selection method is a little bit more precise. It allows you to kind of target specific things that are very near and close to other things. And it will allow me to move over an object, and the second I get to the point where that entire object is in my window, it selects, and I let go. Right? So if I have a very crowded area of geometry, and I only want to get this little wall, I can click, hold my mouse button, drag window type 2, let go, and it only selects that little piece of wall, right? Which is different than if I click up here and I drag down this direction. There's really, unless I just kind of get the middle point there, right? There's really, it's a little bit more tough to get the selection with this window. This way I can drag over a big selection, not be very precise, and get just that little piece, right? Or I could have picked it, click, if I wanted to. So we have the, if you touch it, you select it. We have the, if you hover over its entirety, you select it, okay? Those are our two selection window types. The third type of selection I'm going to talk about, it's a pick selection. It's kind of a combination of selection methods actually, but it's in a different view. So I want to bring that up. So right now we're just in a 2D view, and these selection methods, they apply to anything in Revit. So whether you're in an elevation, a plan, a section, even a 3D view, you can tab select, you can pick, you can window select in the two manners. When I'm in 3D, I'm going to pop into 3D here. One thing you are going to notice is that well, maybe you don't notice, but we have now what's called a face selection, okay? And it really is kind of the same thing as in 2D, just picking a wall, right? But because I have a face of a wall here, instead of just a plan view, this is called a face selection. And it will be important when we're doing modification, when we're using modification commands as we draw geometry, okay? So I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit, and as I hover over this wall, okay, you can see that as I near the kind of top edge, I don't get as much activity in the center field of my wall, but as I move towards a boundary, whether it's an edge boundary towards the center or bottom, okay, as I move toward the boundary of the wall, I'm allowed to see the face of that object be selected, okay? So really it's just being able to pick a plane in space, right, as opposed to a wall in 2D, all right? So I click, it's doing the same thing, it's selecting it. I hit escape, it goes away. I hover over it, I zoom out a little bit, I tab, click, and all of those objects are selected at the same time, right? I hit escape. I can select using this method. If I don't like all my selection set, remember I can use Shift, and I can click, click, or even window, unclick things that I don't want to have in my selection set. Okay. Any questions on any of that so far? Okay. So as we move through some of the commands in Revit, I'll just kind of remind you how I'm picking things to help you be able to navigate that a little bit better. All right, we have one more thing to talk about today, and that is called visual graphics. Okay, I'm going to go to level 1 here. And I don't really want you to have to worry about adding anything. Don't worry about adding furniture. I'm adding some desks here, okay? And I think I'm just going to add whatever they have in here. I think they have a tree inside the build. Look at that nice little park there. We'll add a parking space. I think it's odd that one of the default things that Revit puts in their template is a parking space, but they don't have a toilet, right? By default. So there's some parking spaces. I was just adding things. I'm just clicking and adding things. Don't worry about doing it. And I'm doing this because I want to show you some visual graphics of our projects here, okay? So if I were to go into 3D now, I definitely see I have some desks in there. I have a tree for sure. And I have some little parking stalls out here, which is wonderful, right? So I'm going to close out of that view. And I'm just going to look at my floor plan here. And I'm going to open up a dialog box. And I'm going to do it using the keyboard, all right? I'm going to type V. You can type VV or VG, one of the two. I like VV because I don't have to move my finger over to the G before I hit it. But I'm going to type VV. And what that just did is it opened up what's, for those of you that use AutoCAD, sort of looks like a layer dialog box, right? And it has things in it, essentially. The first thing I want you to notice is that we have a model category tab here. We have an annotation category, so when I click on it, it highlights and I see different things shown here. Analytical model categories, we're not going to worry about those, but we have it. Imported categories and filters. And I'm going to come back over here to model categories. Okay. Model categories, just below that we have what's called a filter list. All right. I'm going to drop this down and I'm going to uncheck everything but architectural. Because we really, for our purposes here, are just going to look at the architectural things. And I'm going to click right there in Nowhere Land. Okay. So now I'm just going to see it says architecture. I'm just going to see architectural things within each of these categories. So I see things like casework, ceilings, electrical equipment, doors. If I mouse down, I see lighting and lines and parking and plumbing fixtures and roof and structural things and walls and windows. Okay. So this dialog box is called, it's visibility graphics. All right. Again, it does look like a layer dialog box, and they're very similar. But essentially, in Revit, and let me say this: this is automatically created for you, right? All of these things are generated. You don't have to. In fact, I don't think really. It's a process to add and remove things from here, unless you're filtering them. Like I turned off structural, right? It's still there. It's just not being viewed. But it's hard for me to add things to this layer dialog box here, the visual graphics. But essentially what this does is this will allow you to turn different categories of items off within each of your views, okay? And that makes sense because we're going to be creating a lot of different views here in Revit, and they all want to indicate different things, right? So I might have a floor plan for level 1 that shows dimensions, and I only want to see dimensions. I might have a floor plan level 1 that shows furniture, and I want to show furniture. I don't want to show equipment or anything else, right? I might have a floor plan where I only want to see the architecture of the space, the doors, the windows, the walls, right? I don't want to see furniture. I don't want to see dimensions. So we're going to have a lot of different floor plans that indicate different things. And so we need to visually be able to turn things on and off, meaning I can't view them, but they're still there, right? We need to be able to manipulate that so that our drawings adequately express what they need to per page. So in this case, I have floor plan level 1 open. I have a tree, which is vegetation, I believe. So, or maybe it's, what is a tree? Topography, walls, windows. Here's the other tricky part. What do things fall under? Planting. There you go. Who would have thought, right? Plantings. I have a desk, which is furniture. Could be furniture systems, right? There's a couple of categories these could be. I have walls. I'm not even going to guess what parking, plumbing, or parking stalls are. It's probably something under topography or site. Might be under site elements, specialty equipment. You know, so we have a lot of different things in here. If I come over here and I see planting and I uncheck that little check mark and I hit apply, my plantings turn off, right? They're visually not there anymore. And it's not to say that they're gone, because they're not. If I hit OK, I don't view them in this view, but if I flip to a 3D view, well, there they are, right? Maybe it's appropriate to view them in the 3D view, so I want them visible, but it's not appropriate to see them in the floor plan view, okay? So this just allows you some visual control over elements in your the different views you're in here, right? And it's kind of a global, not global, but it's a one-step turn on and off, essentially, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to go back to level 1 here, and I'm going to turn my furniture off. So I'm going to do VV again, VV, Visual Graphics. If I wanted to use a button, I could go to View, and we could go over to Visibility Graphics. There it is, VG. Okay, who wants to do that? It's too much time. So VG, Visual Graphics, there it is again. Okay, and now I want to turn off my furniture in this view only. So I mouse down to Furniture, I uncheck it, I hit Apply, I hit OK, and my furniture turns off. All right. So it turns off just in this view. Now when I pop into 3D, look, there is my furniture. So I'm able to use it in other views. I'm just not able to see it in my first floor plan. Okay. I can turn these things back on if I want them. So if I type VV again, I can go down to furniture, check mark it back on, hit apply, and there it is. Okay. So, kind of a huge thing that you're sort of, a lot of people always troubleshoot in Revit is, hey, I knew there was a desk there. Where did it go, right? It's not visible anymore. More than likely somebody's turned it off or whatever, right? So visual graphics, being able to know that we can turn things on and off there, really helpful tool. One thing that I'm not going to really get into today, but I'm going to show you is, you want to say, well, I've kind of forgotten everything that I turned off, and I don't want to go through every visual graphics item here to see what I have turned off. Is there a way for me to reveal without turning items on and see what is there but not visible? And there is. So in my view here, if I come down to the little light bulb, there's a little reveal hidden elements. And I don't know why they don't make these icons slightly bigger, right? They're so tiny. I click on my little light bulb. I get a little magenta outline around the edge of my screen here, and I see these items magenta. Okay, all the magenta items are there, they're just not visible in the current view you're in. Okay, to get back out of this, I can come down and click on this little light bulb again, and it turns it off, or I can come up here and choose to toggle it back off, which it does. Okay. All right, so that's visibility or visual graphics. Visual visibility graphics, you'll hear the same terminology. You can access it through the View tab or VG or VV, right? They're all the same. And this will visually turn things on and off on your drawing board, right? Very similar to AutoCAD with layers. Okay. Any questions on any of these things so far? Not terrible, right? Okay. All right, so I think we'll end there actually with our selection and navigation, and then how to, manipulate things visually on the screen. But I do want to talk about your assignment. You do have an assignment coming up. I was about to say I just posted it, but it's published, I think. If I say there's an assignment and you don't see anything, will someone just email me and let me know? Because sometimes I'm notorious for not publishing things. We are going to do starting a new file, all right? The first thing I want you to kind of do in Revit is I want you to start a new file, and I want you to know how to save it. And then I want you to, for this assignment, you're going to post an image of the files that you created, okay? Oh, nope, wrong one. What did I click on there? Starting a new file. This is going to be due on the 27th, which I believe is Sunday evening. Yeah, midnight Sunday evening, okay? One thing I want to kind of point out here, I don't want anybody to be confused by this. Sorry guys, is that it's due on January 27th, but I'm going to leave the assignment open until February 3rd. So I do, like I said, on our first day of class, I do allow late assignments, even though I don't like it very much. But I'm going to start really kind of limiting the amount of time for late assignments. So instead of 4 months, right, I'll give you, I think I put 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, a week. I forget what I've done. I give you a week, okay? So it will still be late, but you still have time to submit it. Or if there's an issue with your network connection, or Canvas goes haywire, which it does frequently, which I totally get, right? I will just leave the assignment open for a week after that. So it will be due on this date, but you will, if you want to turn it in late, you have until this date, okay? So for this first assignment, you're going to be creating several new files. All right, so what I'd like to do is go through 1 or 2 of these to kind of get you on the right path, and then I'll let you finish up, all right? But essentially, for this assignment, you'll be required to complete the exercise found on page 28-29 of your Revit course manual, which is, we go to modules, and we go to, I believe it's actually in this one, setting up your Revit file. Hopefully my page numbers are still valid. Let's see, 28, 29, 27. Okay, starting a new file, okay? So, this is 2018, but we're in 2019 now. We just started that one. So open up your Revit. While still in the startup screen, click on New Project link. Okay, so we're going to click on New. When the New Project dialog box comes onto the screen, use the drop down and choose None for your project type. None. Okay. Press OK and make sure to choose Imperial Units, which it will ask you. This should take you into the Revit project interface. Once in the Revit interface, go to the File tab menu. Okay, choose Save As, and then save it as a project. And save this project with the name New Blank Project. Make sure that when you save it, you save in the correct RVT format, and save it so that there are 5 backup files running. All right, press OK on all dialog boxes, and this will save your file. So there's very clear instructions on how many backup files to create, where to go, what buttons to push, right? So if you follow along with the assignment, you'll be able to finish this. While still in the Revit interface, yes, it is blank, press Control S 5 times and then exit. Okay, so I'm going to do this first one with you, and I'll let you do the remaining ones by yourself. All right. So I'm going to close out of my Revit project file. And the purpose of this assignment is to just get you into the Revit interface, get you saving files, get you understanding that, we have to specify how many backup files we need for each project, and then how the backup files are actually generated. So I'm going to split my screen here. Hopefully it works. And I'm going to I have a file folder created called 2019 Revit. And I'm going to select all these and delete them. Okay, this is where I would save all of my assignments for Revit. Okay. So I've created a folder, let's pretend we're at home. I'm on my laptop. I've got my folder created to save my assignments, and I want to do this first assignment. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my startup interface here, and I'm going to choose New, which it says to do. So let's see, New. And okay, so which one am I going to choose? So when this pops up, I'm going to drop down and choose None. Okay, well I can do that, right? And then I'm going to press OK, and it's going to ask me to choose Imperial Units, feet and inches. Okay, I've done that. All right, so now it's started a brand new file. My next step is to save this file, and I want to specify 5 backup files. So I'm going to come up here to File, and I'm going to choose Save As, a project. You notice we also have Template because you will be asked to do a template file. Project. Okay, I'm going to browse to wherever I'm saving my homework. Desktop, 2019 Revit. Okay, this one, I'm going to save it as a project and save it with the name New Blank Project. Okay, New Blank Project. Okay, now before I hit Save, which I really want to do, I need to check that this is RVT extension. So .rvt, it shows me right here. Great. I'm going to click on Options, which it also tells me to do, and it says specify that there are 5 backup files running. So I'm going to click, instead of 3, I'm going to delete that and choose 5. And I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to hit Save. And what I've just done here, I've just saved a new project. Now, in order for those 5 backup files to generate, the next step is to hit Save 5 times. While I'm in my interface, Control S, I'm using my keyboard, and you notice that every time I hit save, I get a backup file generating. Control S, S, right? And I don't get more than 5, it just starts saving over the top of those previous files, okay? So that is step 1, okay? Now we have step 2. It says starting a new template Revit file. So you'll go through the instructions on that, okay? And at the very end, I'm going to go back to our actual assignment in Canvas. Okay, which is starting a new file here. It says, to receive full credit for this assignment, you must post the following items. This file, newblankfile.rvt, the architecture.rvt, and construction.rte. All right. And a screenshot image of where you have all these files saved. So if you guys don't know what I'm about to show you, it's going to revolutionize your lives. did mine. And all I want you to do is screenshot, but I use, does everybody use the snip tool? Have I talked about the snip tool? This is the best thing. And I only learned about it not too long ago, which, you know, what was my life like before? I'm going to go down to my little window tab here. I don't know how to do this on a Mac, okay? But if I click on the window tab here and I start typing in snip, S-N-I-P, the snipping tool pops up. And maybe I'm old school, but I used to hit the print screen button on my keyboard and save my screen prints. And if I had to crop it, it was a pain in the neck because I would have to open Photoshop or something and crop it, right? But my snip tool, I click on that and it pops up with this little guy right here, all right? So I can click on New Snip. And essentially this will just allow me to click and drag over a portion of my screen, let go, and I can save this as a JPEG image, right? If you want to draw on it, you can with a pen and say things. But this is what I'm looking for your submission. Once you have everything complete and all your files saved in this one place, I want you to go and choose File, Save As, right? And whatever, let's see, screenshot image, we'll just call it screenshot image, I'm going to. Revit. And we'll make it a JPEG, save, and this will show me that your file structure is correct, that indeed you did save it as a Revit file and you have 5 backup files running there, and I can close that out, okay? So now I have, in my assignment folder, I have all of those files plus my screenshot. Click, click. Oh, photos, there we go. Right, so I can view that on Canvas, okay? So that's what I'm looking for your submission. Once you're done, you just close out of Revit, close, and you're good to go. Anybody have any questions about any of that? Easy enough? Okay.